All right, let's dive right into it. UFC 325 gave us the rematch everybody was waiting for. You had the king, Alexander Volkanovski, stepping back in there to defend his featherweight crown against the absolute bulldog, Diego Lopes. And let me tell you, this was so much more than just a fight. This was a test of a champion's heart.
And this quote? Man, this says it all. This is everything you need to know about the man himself. Adversity is a privilege. Think about that. He doesn't just tolerate the hard stuff, he welcomes it. That's the mindset of a champion, and it's the key to understanding why he's still on top.
So after all the talk, all the buildup, how did it go down? Well, after 5 tough, grueling rounds, the judges made it official, and it was unanimous. Alexander, the great Volkanovski, is still the king of the featherweights. His reign continues after just an incredible, masterful performance. But what's so wild about this fight is just how much it looked like their first one. Seriously, if you watched them go at it in Miami, you probably had a serious case of déjà vu. Volk came in with a game plan that was basically a carbon copy of the first. And guess what? It worked to perfection, giving him another clear, decisive win. Okay, so let's get into the nuts and bolts. How exactly did he dominate this fight? Because this wasn't some chaotic brawl, no. This was a tactical masterclass. It was a clinic on control. Volkanovski had a blueprint, and he followed it step by step.
The whole thing, the entire foundation of his victory, was his control of space. You see, Volk is an absolute wizard when it comes to distance management. He kept Lopes on the end of his punches, just out of reach, constantly circling. He never let the guy plant his feet and throw those bombs. For Lopes, it had to be beyond frustrating.
And because of that incredible distance control, Lopes just couldn't land clean. It was like he kept running into a brick wall. Every time he tried to get something going, Volkanovski's defense was right there, solid as a rock, just shutting it all down. But here's the real genius of it. His offense was his defense. He wasn't just blocking and moving. Oh no. Every single time Lopes lunged in, Volkanovski was waiting, and he'd sting him with these sharp, perfectly timed counterstrikes that just took the wind right out of his sails. And it wasn't just his hands. He used every tool in the toolbox. He was chopping away at Lopes' legs with these brutal calf kicks. Then, just when Lopes was thinking about the kicks, he'd shoot for a takedown. And in the later rounds, he'd get on top and just unleash that heavy ground and pound. A truly complete performance. But you know what happens inside the octagon is only half the story. To really get what this win meant, you gotta look inside the mind of the champion. And his post-fight interview, it gave us this really raw, really honest look at the guy who was still pushing himself to the absolute limit. You can just hear the exhaustion in his voice when he says this. I mean, the guy is 37 years old, and he's just brutally honest about how hard it is to stay on top of this mountain. It's this rare glimpse of vulnerability that actually shows you how incredibly strong he is. But right after saying that, he tells you exactly what keeps him going. He doesn't just put up with the challenge, he thrives on it. The idea of some young, hungry lion coming to take his throne doesn't scare him, no way. It lights a fire in him. That's his fuel. So, look, the story feels right, his mindset is incredible, but the numbers make it undeniable. So let's take a look at the data, because it paints a really clear picture of just how in control Volkanovski was. Check out the official scorecards here. So you got 2 judges who scored at 49-46, meaning they gave Lopes just 1 round. But look at that third judge, 50-45. For anyone who doesn't know, that's a shutout. That means that judge thought Volkanovski won every single round. That's what you call dominance. And this right here really drives home that whole carbon copy idea. Look at the scores from the first fight next to this one. The first 2 cards are identical, but that third card, that's the story. He went from a close 48-47 in Miami to a clean sweep 50-45 this time. He was actually more dominant in the rematch. Now here's a stat that might seem small, but it's huge. Volkanovski had over 45 seconds more control time in this fight. Okay, that might not sound like a ton, but in a 25-minute war, that is a massive indicator of who was calling the shots, who was deciding where that fight went. So after another absolute masterclass, another title defense, the question everybody's asking is, what is left for the king? He's systematically taken out all the top guys. I mean, some of them he's beaten twice. What's next? And let's just put this whole thing in perspective for a second. 6 successful title defenses, 8 total wins in championship fights. We're talking about all-time great numbers here. Alexander Volkanovski isn't just a champion, he is the undisputed king of the featherweights. Period.
So really, the big takeaway here is this. Even with his age, even with the tough camps, and even with a division full of sharks, Volkanovski proved yet again that he's on a completely different level. The gap between the king and everybody else is as wide as it's ever been.
And that leaves us with his final thought, right? He's beaten the best the division has. He's done it again. So as he keeps building this incredible legacy, you have to wonder, is the king's greatest challenge now just himself?